Okay, good morning, good evening, good afternoon, wherever in the world you are. This is week 2, the second session for implementing acquisitions in Alma. Depending where you are, it may be Wednesday, July 8th or Thursday, July 28th or Thursday, July 29th. And our topic today is ordering electronic and physical resources. This is the same slide that we saw last week, where kind of my expectations are that the people who are attending are live on Alma. Now, some people might not, some might still be in implementation, and everyone's absolutely welcome, but I won't be getting into the details of screen layout and what a row action menu is, those kind of foundation things about Alma I'm expecting you to be familiar with. You know, if you have questions, definitely ask them, though. Don't hesitate to do that. I did want to remind you about this additional document that I created called Acquisition User Roles and Terminology, and it is available on the website, the dashboard for the series, that link that I put into the chat. And so this might change. I haven't changed it anymore, but I'm finishing up the last session. And so if I do make changes to this, I did put a time and a date stamp with my initials. So if I do make changes to it, I will update that and have this uploaded to the dashboard as well. And then at the bottom of this is a glossary. I think I need to put a little header here, just of some common acronyms, common words that are related to acquisitions workflows. One thing I do say a lot, I will go back and forth between the term AC and acquisitions. It's just kind of habit. It's what I do. But so keep this document handy as well. And if you have any suggestions for it, hey, don't hesitate to send those my way either, because it is kind of it's a little bit fluid right now, but I want to make sure it's a good tool for you to have when you get done, as well as these PowerPoints. These PowerPoints are designed to be more than just an outline, but to walk you through these steps. So that's why I'm always working on them. So our topic right now is ordering electronic and physical resources. Again, as I said before, my name is Jenny Draeger, and I'm a technical services consultant with Voyager. Oh my gosh, with Alma. Well, you know where I used to, what product I used to work on. Oh my gosh. This is our agenda. We're going to be starting with ordering basics and roles, and then moving into where you might source bibliographic records, where you might find them, because with Alma, we need bib records to start an order. We're going to talk about purchase order lines. Then we're going to get into the different one-time orders. And then we're going to talk about PO line templates. So it's kind of a subset of one-time orders, but it is its own topic because you could use PO line templates for any PO line types. And then we're going to talk about continuous orders, so subscriptions, standing orders, and then I have a list of PO line statuses and then some resources. So let's get moving. Ordering basics and roles. And let me make sure I have my script here so I don't miss any of the topics I want to cover. So you saw this slide last week, and this is the general acquisitions workflow. It is simplified quite a bit. And right now we are right in the middle of it. This purchase order line, 6-sided shape here. So we're going to be creating purchase order lines. And when that happens, inventory gets created. PO lines are linked to vendor account records. And we talked about that last week. And also fund information, because if you buy something, you have to tell Alma how you're paying for it. Then those purchase order lines are packaged up into purchase orders. So that is where we are this week. That's our topic. And then this is just kind of a write-up of what I said verbally. Alma's focus, remember, is on the PO lines. And because that is where ordering happens, receiving and activating happens, and invoicing happens. One common question that pops up is, does it matter if I have a purchase order on a purchase order line individually, or I put them together if I have multiple purchase order lines on a purchase order. And functionally, it doesn't matter. It's really preference. There might be certain times that you specifically want a purchase order line to be on an individual purchase order, and other times where you don't mind if they're grouped. We'll talk about an invoicing, a little benefit of grouping PO lines, but it's not enough to make a big difference. Okay. I also want to mention there are operator roles related to ordering. And so that document that I just brought up about acquisitions, user roles, and terminology. So I'm going to go back in here because I want to point out another way that I created this document was last week we were talking about configuration. We were talking about fiscal, period, ledger, funds, vendors. Now we're getting into purchase orders. So these headers, these subject areas, we're kind of going down them in order as we move through the series. And then within each section, like in the purchase order section, purchasing manager has the most privileges, and then purchasing operator, and then purchasing operator extended. Next week, we'll be getting into activating inventory, receiving inventory. So this next set of roles come into play. So I have just put up the descriptions and definitions of some of these roles. So to keep that handy. But always remember, our documentation is all indexed in Google. So you can always come in here and say Alma user roles. You do a search, and then anything that says knowledge.exlibrisgroup.com is our knowledge center, our customer knowledge center. And if I click on here, I'm going to be linked right into the documentation. There's never a password on our documentation. You can get in there. And if I scroll down a little bit, I don't want to make anyone, a little dizzy or anything, but here's the table called user roles. So this is all of them in all of Alma. It's a very long table. I just have some select ones on that document. So this is a helpful, don't forget that our documentation is linked, is indexed in Google. So that's a great piece of documentation for you there. A lot of times I try to push you to the doc. I don't want to rewrite the doc in these slides. So this link takes you to that page, but you can always search it as well. So if I really like that doc, I find it especially helpful. That's where I'm going to point you. Remember, I have rules by which to live, and one is to let Alma do the work for you. So if Alma can automate a process for you, let it do that work. I don't want you using a third party like Excel, spreadsheet, or Google Doc or anything to track things. Push Alma to do that work for you. And I also don't want you to make things more complicated than they need to be. There are times when there might be certain features that you're just not going to use in your library. That's absolutely fine. Don't overcomplicate anything. Keep it all as streamlined as possible. Okay. So our next topic here is sourcing bibliographic records. So PO line, when we make a purchase order line, a PO line, they require a bib record. You have to start there. Now the quality of the bib record, it could be very brief. It can just literally have a 245A, a title, that's it. Or it could be a very full record as well. So where can we go find bib records for our purchase order lines? One place is the institution zone. Maybe you already own a resource and you're getting a replacement, or you're adding another copy to your collection for whatever reason. So, hey, you could just use that bib record that's already in your institution zone. If you are a library that has a network zone, so you're in a consortia, you do want to search there before you go to find for a bib record, even before you go to an external source. Because if you have a network zone in place, the key is that you want to use that network zone bib record and attach your local inventory to that record. Some network zones have electronic resources, some don't. Some only have bib records for physical resources. That depends on the consortium. It depends on the network zone management. That's not our choice to make, it's your choice to make. So be aware of what records are in the network zone. I have also seen some consortia, if you were to buy a resource that maybe is going to sit on your reserve shelf and it's not going to really be permanent reserves and it's not going to be shared across the consortium, I've seen some consortia say, keep that bib record in your institution zone instead of your network zone. You could still source it from the network zone and like break the link and put it in your institution zone. So those are just local workflows to be aware of, local rules about your network zone to be aware of. And so you'll need to work with your cataloging team and or the network zone managers to determine the appropriate workflow in that situation. Okay. Records could be found out in the community zone, especially if we're talking about electronic resources. If you are purchasing an electronic resource, the first place you want to go is the community zone. Look for it there. If it's not there, then you could make a local portfolio and a local collection to take care of that. Metadata records, bib records could also be imported one by one from external resources. They could be created manually in the MD editor using a template, and they could be imported via bulk import. So that last option, imported via bulk import, session 5 of this series, I'm going to talk more about automating these processes. So as I go through my steps today, it's going to be very manual, and that because I want you to understand the workflow, I want you to understand the features in Alma, where in session 5, we're going to say, now, how are you really going to do this? You shouldn't be working manually all the time in Alma. If you have the ability to set up some integrations with your vendors. So we'll get to that. So now the next few slides go through some screenshots of searching the institution zone, finding that title. If you have a network zone, just going to that network zone tab. And remember, if you don't own it, it's going to look like number 2 here, held by 1. That's not you. If you owned it, it would show that. Searching the community zone. So that second tab or third tab, if you have a network zone, the tab to the right. This is e-book. So this is a portfolio, a title, if you will. And then this is a electronic collection. So searching out in the community zone. Searching external resources. Now this is, now how you access this is going to resources, cataloging, search resources. So in the Alma menu, resources, cataloging, search resources, or if you're in the MD editor under the search and browse heading, search resources. Both of those bring you to the same place. It's just good old Z39.50. It's not anything special. It's not anything new. It's a communication standard that has been in place for decades at this point, a way to communicate to other databases. I'm going to go and show you this right now, and we'll come back to the PowerPoint. So I'm going to come in here into Alma, and I'm going to do, I need to do the external search. So I'm going to resources, cataloging, search resources. My title, okay. Now, when you first get your system, if you have not changed any of these, you're going to see British Library, you're going to see Library of Congress and WorldCat. Now you can add, I think that's what still comes out of the box. Now in this environment, additional databases have been added, additional places to go source bibliographic records. So you can add additional ones. Now, out of the box, if you haven't configured WorldCat to work, it's not going to work. I don't have credentials for WorldCat, so the search isn't going to go through, but you need you need a username and password. You need credentials for someone with cataloging privileges to be able to search WorldCat. And it's doing is going there and grabbing it and bringing it into Alma. So let me go ahead and do my search. Fundamentals of modern manufacturing. Okay, so and then I'm going to go ahead and click search. Now this is a title that has many different series or different pub dates. So this is like a textbook. So that one's copyright 2013, copyright 2010, 2007. I have a 2020 in here. Here we go. This one is copyright 2020. And so I can take a look at it first and say, is this really the one I want? And scroll down a little bit, look at the description. Appears to be, okay, this says online version. Let's go back to results. But this says Hoboken, New Jersey. Okay. And that was number 6. Number 7 is also the same. You see, it's the same Groover, McKell. It's the same author. Let's take a peek at number 7. What do I see here in that description? Print version. This is the one I want. So I can go ahead and click on import. What that does is that brings that metadata record into the MD editor. Okay. So I just found that one. We're going to order it in just a minute. I mentioned another place to source bib records is right in the MD editor. If you are in the MD editor, you can, under the new menu, you can have multiple templates set up here. And so I'm going to go ahead and do that one for you as well. Okay. So let me get out of here, come back into Alma. And so under new, Mark 21 bib, books. Now my books template has a whole lot of information in it, and that's just fine. One of my favorite features of Alma, I'm going to put a title in here, additive. Let's say I searched for it, I couldn't find it, or maybe your workflow is that someone just puts this very brief record and your catalogers are going to go get a better record when the item comes in. So this is where you can just design a workflow that works best for you. Additive manufacturing technologies. And my author is Gibson. So when I hit save, remember Alma has some normalization rules that happen and it scrubs out all those empty fields for me. Ta-da, I'm done. So I have pulled in a bib record, I've imported a bib record, and then I have also just created a very brief bib record. So the long and the short of it is you're going to need to work with your catalogers to develop a workflow for sourcing bib records that are appropriate in your situation. I realize in some cases, some of the libraries on this call, you might be the acquisitions person and the cataloger. And so again, you just want something that's going to not make extra work for you. It's going to keep things very smooth, keep everything moving in your process. And also remember, there are no wrong answers. You need to recognize what works for you and your library. Okay. So let's go back to the PowerPoint and keep moving. So our next topic here is talking about the purchase order lines themselves. So purchase order lines, they create inventory, they encumber funds, they are bundled into purchase orders. They are bundled into purchase orders. They can trigger workflows like acquisitions workflows, receiving workflows, invoicing, or claims. They can also launch other workflows such as trials and renewals. There we go. When you start to create a purchase order line, you're going to have to identify a PO line type. A PO line type, and this is a topic we brought up last week. PO line type is a combination of the inventory format, whether it's physical or electronic, and the continuity. Is it a one-time? Is it continuous? Is it standing? So it could be a physical one-time, a physical continuous, physical standing. It could be an electronic one-time, electronic continuous. So you make a choice at the beginning of the purchasing process. So because that acquisition item material type choice that you make affects downstream workflows. Now, what I did here, here was a little slide talking about when you might choose a different purchase order line type at the time of ordering, one-time orders versus continuous versus standing, what the behavior is throughout the usage and life of a purchase order line. But then I wanted to, again, instead of rewriting documentation, I wanted to, oops, I'm going to take this link, this one. This is the one we were talking about. Excuse me. I want to get in here. Here we go. Let me grab this link. I don't have this bookmarked. Let me go back into here. Let me bring it in here. Because we talked last week about configuring configuration settings. And this specific link is talking about where to go into configuration to enable and disable different PO line types. For instance, one of them is called physical one time and one is called print book one time. You can disable like the print book one and say, I don't care if it's a book, if it's a DVD or whatever it is. If it's a physical resource, if it's a physical resource, just let it, I can just use that one. So this link takes you right to the documentation. It tells you what you have to do to be able to alter these config settings, and this goes through the whole list. Okay. So I wanted to point that out. It was a pretty hot topic last week. Okay. So that was talking about the purchase order line types, a couple pieces of documentation that are absolutely key. Another thing you're going to see on purchase order lines are acquisition method. An acquisition method is set at the purchase order line level. You set a default one so that if you manually create a purchase order line in Alma, it's going to have a default one. Most people choose purchase at vendor system. This link here will take you to the different acquisition methods, a table that explains all the differences. So there's purchase at vendor system and there's purchase. When you choose purchase at vendor system as an acquisition method, Alma is expecting that there is no communication between Alma and that external vendor. Think Amazon. Amazon isn't going to communicate with you as a library. If you purchase resources from them, you're going to be doing double work. You're going to be working in the Amazon interface and you're going to be working in the Alma interface. That's just how it is with that vendor. Now, if you are working with Gobi, let's say you have an account with Gobi and you order a lot of physical materials there or a lot of materials there, period. You can choose to either work in Alma, and that would have an acquisition method of purchase instead of purchase at vendor system, and Alma can send the order to Gobi. Or when we get into, you can work in Gobi and have the two systems communicate, and the order comes into Alma. And if you set up that integration, that purchase order line type that gets created when the PO lines get created, that'll also be set to purchase. The next slide is talking about a few of the different acquisition methods, like if it's approval, if it's depository, if it's exchange, gift, there's purchase of vendor system and technical. I want to specifically point out that some of these don't require a list price, like technical. The use case for a technical order would be, let's say you had a membership to a certain organization and they sent you their journal as a result, or you had a subscription to an electronic resource and they sent you the physical one as well, complimentary. So you would make your original purchase order line, whether it's purchase a vendor system, whatever it is. And then you would make a second purchase order line. And that second one would be technical because you're not really paying for it, but it would allow the management, the receipt, the whole acquisitions process to go through. And then you can link the two PO lines. So you know why you get this one is because of the other one that you pay for, whether it's that membership, whether it's that other resource, however it works for you. That's just a little detail, a little background about those some basics about purchase orders. Now we're going to get into actually doing some ordering here. So we're going to talk about one-time orders. Now the workflows for all of, I don't care if it's print, I don't care if it's electronic, I don't care if it's one time, I don't care if it's continuous. The workflow is pretty much the same. You locate or create a bib. You create a purchase order line to initiate the ordering process. You fill it out and complete it, and you're done. Now, there are some details when you get in. There's different required fields. There's a few differences, but the basic workflow is the same. It doesn't matter what you're ordering, format, continuity, anything. Same workflow for print or electronic. And again, I've said this before, the choices you make at the time of ordering affects what happens downstream in the process, okay? So with one-time orders, if you have a bibliographic record open in the MD editor, in the top right here, you see that little icon with a shopping cart that says order. You just click on order and that starts the process. If the bibliographic record that you have sourced, whether it's in the institution zone or network zone, you don't have to open it up in the metadata editor. You can, from the row action menu, just choose the order option, and that'll start the ordering process. Okay, I'm going to walk through a few steps, and then I'm going to go ahead and do these. If I were purchasing a one-time electronic resource, remember, I'm going to go to the community zone to find it. So this image on the left is actually the title level search, fiber production in South American camelids and other fiber animals. It's an electronic book. So I find the title, and then what I actually want to do is link to the portfolios. See, I could buy this ebook. It's located in 20 different portfolios. So you actually want to do the order off of that portfolio level. And the whole reason is down here. That portfolio includes linking and coverage information. Let's say this were a journal from the vendor that will be added to the inventory created during the ordering process. So you're doing yourself a favor by going to the appropriate portfolio, because a portfolio, you'll see the vendor, where the access provider for this, and order it from there. When you are working with one-time orders, we have some required fields. This is nothing new. You have to tell Alma who are you buying it from. We need that vendor account, okay? We need a price. We need the quantity for pricing, funding. How are you going to pay for it? And then that acquisition method, you just want to verify that for accuracy. Now there are optional fields. The material type is a helpful field. Reporting codes are helpful. We talked about those last week when we talked about ledgers. One more way to track how you're spending your money. Expected receipt, timing, date. Interested users tab. Hey, did someone request that you purchase this for, as to add it to the library? You can add them as an interested user, and there's some functionality Alma takes care of there for you as well. I want to talk a little bit about some of the data that will get filled in on your purchase order line. When you make a one-time order, And if it is a print one-time order, remember you choose a vendor account. In that vendor account, those vendor accounts we looked at last week, Alma is going to look for the data in the vendor account is going to populate these fields. It'll populate expected receipt after ordering, or you could manually put a date in here. And this date overrides this. Claiming grace period, that would also come from the vendor record. The vendor account, I'm sorry. If this were an electronic resource, it would say an expected activation date or activation after receiving. So these are the dates that matter and how Alma's going to figure out if you should, if this has slipped through the cracks or not. Okay. When you get done creating a purchase order line, you've got everything filled in. You have two options. You have the order now option or save and continue. If you click order now, the PO line is immediately packaged into a purchase order with that single PO line, and it's done, it's gone. No more processing on that. If you are going to do either a manual packaging or automatic packaging, you would click save and continue, and Alma will move it to the next phase and if you are doing automatic packaging, a job runs in Alma to do that packaging for you and takes that next step with the PO lines. Manual packaging, you would have to put those together to put the PO lines together on a purchase order. I don't recommend manual packaging. If you said, oh, I have to do this, I'd really want to have a conversation with you about it and say, why is this so important? I'd want to know why. I don't think it's a great use of your time. Either do the order now or let Alma package them up for you. Let Alma do that work. Okay, I'm going to go make a couple of purchase orders. Okay, so I'm back here in Alma. This is that bib record I created off of a template, and I'm just going to continue the process here. I'm going to click order. Here's my PO line type. Now this is a print book, so I'm going to choose print book one time. You see how I have physical one time down here too? This is that duplicative PO line type, and this is that list you can go configure and narrow down. You might just leave everything physical one time. I know if it's a book from something else. Which library is this going to, who's going to own this? The PO line owner, what library? My environment, I have multiple libraries and I have a centralized acquisitions department. If you only have one library in your you only have one library in your Alma institution, or this is an ACT department that doesn't do centralized ACT for other libraries, you just pick that one. I'm going to click create PO line. Okay, there's my, here is my inventory. I need my material supplier. So when you click on this, recent material suppliers pop up, recent vendors. But if you don't have that list populated or want to go search your whole list, you just click on that little hamburger, that little 3-line one. And I'm going to choose BookSense, that's our vendor. So you see how that has populated some data here from the vendor account, our expected receipt date, and our claim date. I do need a price. I do need a fund. Again, if these funds are working, that's great. If I want to see my whole list of funds, I click on that little search, and I'm going to put this under science. Okay, I need to click add fund. This is going to be a book. Here are those reporting codes. So I'll say this is sciences. I'll say this is chemical. These reporting codes, you can design them to be whatever you want. And I'll click order now. And I'm done. I write that PO line down. That'll just help me a little bit later. Okay. So I just made a PO line. I'm going to do that again. I'm going to come into resources. I'm going to open the metadata editor because I also pulled in that other bib record, this fundamentals of modern manufacturing. This is that title I pulled in via Z3950. So again, from the MD editor, I go ahead and click order. Now Alma got the PO line type right for me. It's going to guess. So it populated that for me. Great. It's going to live in the main library. Great. Now I'm going to say that load from, I'm going to talk about templates now. I'm going to create a purchase order line here. PO line templates, that's the next topic in the PowerPoint here. So I'm going to talk about it now and then we'll go over the slides. What a PO line template will do, it will, by default, fill in certain fields. So I'm going to have this fill that in. I'm going to put my price. I'm going to say this is $50. I know textbooks are never that cheap. And I'm going to put this science fund in here too. So Alma, it won't save the price, but it will save a fund. So did that stick? There it is. Okay. So it's going to save my supplier. It's going to save my fund. It's going to save my inventory and location. So add this. That's going to save my material type. And I'm going to go ahead and fill these in too. I'm going to say, we know this is sciences and we know it's by book sense. And we'll say chemical sciences. Okay. So now if I want to make this a template, I would say save as template. And you want to come up with a naming convention. So whether I'm going to say science, main, so like I'm saying the topic, I'm saying the library, you want to come up with a consistent naming convention. Or, I'm going to start with library, vendor, BKSN, science. Done. I can make a template. I can save this. Oh, there was that option to make it public or not. Public would mean other acquisitions operators can use this template. I accidentally left it no, so I'm the only one that can see it and my colleagues will not see it. So I'm still making this purchase order line for me. Gonna move on through and go ahead and click. I'm gonna hit save and continue on this one. So that was PO line 8325. So PO line templates are helpful. They're just something you want to make as you need them. And the whole point is that they're going to save you clicks down the road. So these next few slides talk about them. Saved as sets of configurations can be applied to any new PO line, help you save time, help with accuracy. They can be private. Just develop that standard naming convention and use it consistently. I put this link in here because this website, this link in the documentation shows you everything that can be put into the template. No, you don't have to have, maybe you're not going to put a single vendor in the template. Maybe yours is going to be about those reporting codes and the funding, and you'll always have to fill in a vendor. That's fine. The template can be as robust or as simple as you need it to be. But that link to the documentation will take you right to where all your options are as far as each section and what could be part of a template. Okay. I also wanted to put it on there. I wanted to put a link in there because remember, Alma's always changing. We have monthly releases and little things like that can change. It could come from an idea exchange suggestion. Can you make this part of the template? So it's better to just put a link to the doc because if it changes, the doc gets updated. This is just showing how I created the template. You would start to work on your purchase order line, fill in those fields that you want to be part of the template. If you don't want the vendor to be part of the template, don't fill it out. When you go up to the little ellipsis, click Save as Template, give it a name, set if it's public or not. Can your colleagues use it or just you? And then the next time you go to create a purchase order line, there's that box to load from template. And you just choose the template there. And then your information is filled in. So let me go ahead and do one more, or I'm going to do one more firm order. I'm going to pull in a bib record. I'm going to use that template. Okay. So I'm going to go to resources. Let me make sure I'm on the right, which line I want to do. There's my PO line templates. Okay. Yep. So let me go ahead and I'm going to go to search resources, practical electronics for inventors. That is my title. Let me clear this one out. Inventors. Inventors. There we go. Search. So there's 4 practical electronics for vendors. This one's coming out of LC. This is someone else. That one's LC. Let's see, 2013, 2016, 2007. Oh, I want this 2016 one. That's the one I want, the newest. And remember, if I just say, oh, I know this is what I want, I can click import right from here without clicking on view. And if I said, oh gosh, this is the wrong one, if I release this from here, release record, because it's kind of in limbo right now, then it goes away. So it's okay if you bring a record this far and it's the wrong record, just release it. I've sourced my bib record. I've brought it into the MD editor. I'm going to go ahead and click on order. Physical one time. Main library. Load from template. And so now my templates, main book sense science. I want to make sure that's the right one because yep. I made one earlier that I didn't really like, and I want to make sure I don't use that one. Okay. Create a PO line. So you will notice vendor filled in. The price isn't. Oh, the fund didn't stick. See, I think this is the template I used earlier. Because I didn't have the fund in there. Yeah, I didn't pick the right I did not pick the right right one. There we go. Or maybe I did, but the fund didn't stick. I gotta look into that. That same thing happened earlier. So from here, I can go ahead and hit save and continue. It just saves you filling in some fields. Okay. So templates are definitely your friend. So those were one-time physical orders. Okay. Okay, so I did that one. Let's go ahead. I do want to show using an institution zone record. I want to show, let's say you needed that additional copy of something. So I'm going to do an all title search. So this is still a physical one-time order. We're going to do women's entrepreneurship in the 21st century. Did I spell entrepreneurship right? There we go. Search. This is the one I want. And let's see, I have a copy. It's in the grad library. Maybe for whatever reason, we want one for our main library. We want a second copy of this. So what I'm going to do in the row actions menu, I'm just going to go click order. Physical one time, main. Let me try that. Let me try that template recently used public. Let me just try a different one here. Create PO line. This is telling me, hey, you already have one of these. I know, I want it in a new library. Okay. Add fund. We do need a price. We're just gonna use science because it's popping up here on top. I'm gonna put a price in here. And order now. Oh, this didn't add. I'm sorry. That was not a good template. I chose an ebook template and it was not helpful. It didn't make my inventory for me because of that template. So this is going to have a new holdings record because it's living in a different library and or location. In this example, it's living in a different library. Now this is taking its time. So these are our print one-time orders. Now I'm going to, as soon as this one's done, I'm going to do an electronic one-time order. So it's going to be a very, the same workflow. I just need to find a bib record. Come on. This is acting up. So oh, there we go. Now it's happy. It's got all that filled in. I need a fund. Just add science in here to get it filled in. There we go. Order now. 8327. Okay, there we go. That was happy. Okay, so let's do an electronic one-time order now. Remember, electronic resources, where do we want to go? We want to go to the community zone. So I'm going to start with a title level search. And alpaca, oops. And llama health management. So when I did this search, remember you can change to community zone up here, or if you did it at the institution zone, you could just toggle to the community. There's no wrong way to get there. So what I see when I look at this, I did this title level search. I see I can get this from one vendor, Elsevier Science Direct. Now I don't want to click order here. I can link to the portfolio list here, or I can link to the portfolio. Oh, I can link to it up here. Both of these links take you to the same place. A list of results of the portfolios. This only has one, so there's only one here, but I do want to order it. This is going to be an ebook one-time order. Main library, I'm not going to use a template. So this is going to have electronic inventory. I've got my electronic inventory. It's not active. This was Elsevier, I think. I don't know if I have Elsevier in here as a vendor. Oh, here it is. There we go. Let's say this is $400 because it's Elsevier. We're going to have that nice high price. And this is another science. We're talking about critters and health. And so we're going to go ahead and say, add that fund. That acquisition method is purchase at vendor system. So, and I can also do my reporting code. So this is sciences, and maybe this will be biological sciences. I'll do a quick order now here. Confirm. So those are my one-time orders. I'm just making sure I'm getting these numbers written down for next time. Having the PO line numbers helps me out as we go through the process. Let's go back to the PowerPoint. We're going to talk about a couple more things here. Oh, that interested users tab. So when you do purchase, if someone, to show you that, let me come back in here. Okay, this is still in review, and I don't know why. I'm glad it is, because I can go ahead and, why is this in review? If a PO line goes into review, typically you can go to the alerts and Alma should tell you. Or if you hit save instead of save and continue, it doesn't look like, oh, let me click on edit. It doesn't look like anything's missing. We have our inventory, we have our supplier, we have our price, we have our fund. Okay, let me go to the interested users tab just so I can show you this. So add an interested user, Jenny. Let's add me. And here I am. Now, this is an electronic resource, so I can notify them when it gets activated. Okay, that sounds like a good idea. Notify them upon cancellation? No, thanks. They don't need to know that. If this were a physical resource, there'd be another option here to place a hold for the item. So in that case, you might not want to do the notify on receiving, and you would just choose the hold option. But Alma's going to take care of that. Okay, you're not going to have to worry about that anymore. Not going to have to have a note at receiving. You're not going to have to send an email. Alma will take care of it for you. Okay. So now let's talk about continuous orders. I know we're getting close to the top of the hour. If you have to go, this recording will be made available. Same steps. Locate or create a bid, create a purchase order line, fill it out, and you're done. Now, when we do create inventory for physical holdings records, it doesn't create the item records, it only creates the holdings. I'm going to address a question that just popped up about last week's recording. It is available. I'm going to put this link in the chat. It's over here on this recording. Okay. That's where you should see it. And I'm going to put this in the chat and then get back to this presentation. Chat. Let me pop this in here. Okay. There you go. Okay, so let's go back to the PowerPoint here. Talking about continuous orders, whether it's print or electronic. And it's also the same workflow where we just locate the bid record. If it's in the MD editor, you just click the little shopping cart. If it's in the community zone, you want to get to the portfolio because the linking, coverage, etc. This slide is talking about the required fields and the optional fields. Now these next few slides, I'm not going to demo this right now just because we're so tight on time. But if you have print journals that migrated into Alma and so you have inventory, you don't want Alma to make more inventory, a new holding record. As you create the PO line, you choose the option to assign inventory manually. Then you will need to confirm. Alma's going to say, I'm not going to make anything new. I say, okay, confirm that message. The PO line will open. I want you to note the purchase order line number and click save. So that'll put the PO line into review intentionally. And then you want to go search for that title in your institution zone, link to that physical inventory. If you only have one holding, see how this is only in one place? Then click holdings. I'm sorry, if you have more than one holding, if let's say you had this in 2 locations, you would want to click the holdings. If you only have one location like this Fiber Arts is only in one location, click items and link to holdings, because you want to get to the list of holdings to do this next step. So it's one extra click. From here, you would go to the row action menu. And it'll say link PO line, and it'll show here. And then you go back to the purchase order line and finish it. So test this out. The steps are in here. Test this out in your sandbox, okay? Before you do it in your live environment. Let me do a quick order for print continuous. I have a record with a bib already in my environment, so I don't have to go do that again. So I'm gonna do all titles. Brain, Journal of Neurology. I have a bib record in here with no inventory at all. Here it is. So from here, I'm just going to click order. This is going to be print journal subscription or physical subscription. So this is again where you could trim this list down if you like. Almost going to make my holdings records. It's going to live at the main library. Let's say I did have a periodicals room. That's another great way. If I edit this location, that's another great way to utilize a template. I do a little Control F. I change this from main to periodical room. Save. I go back into acquisitions, look at my review PO lines. Here it is. Get back in here to edit. See how I have my new location. Let's have this be ProQuest. Let's put a price of $76. Let's add a fund for science. Now, since this is a continuous order, we have another required field, and that's that renewal date. So whether it's physical or electronic, doesn't matter. If it's continuous, we need that renewal date. And now Alma, you could set a renewal reminder period where Alma will create a task so many days out before the renewal for you to check your usage or whatever to determine if you're going to renew this. This is a soft warning about the reporting codes. So I'm just going to acknowledge it right here. So that purchase order line is done. I want to show you one more continuous order for an electronic collection, because this is a really important one to be aware of how to do. I'm going to do an electronic collection. Now, when you're testing these out using the ProQuest historical newspapers, if you're doing this in your sandbox, these are great because they're nice and quiet. I mean, they're not large collections. So when you go to activate them, they actually run very quickly. I had a collection, the South China Morning. That was the individual one I want. That's Wisconsin, Ohio. Oh, it must have been on the second page. Michigan, Indiana, Alabama, the province, Montreal. It's coming up here soon because Hartford. I'm just going to grab one of these if I can't find it soon. Minneapolis. Oh, wait, I'm in the community zone. See these, if the little house is blue, that means I have it and it's activated. You know what, I'm just going to use this one because it's not here. Okay, there's only 4 portfolios. Now this one you do want to order from the electronic collection level. We're not ordering from the portfolio level. This is an electronic collection subscription. It's going to live in the main library, or the main library is going to essentially own it. So I have my collection up here. This will be ProQuest because it was ProQuest Historical Newspapers. Our price, let's see, $240. Let's make it that. Sometimes I give myself wonderful discounts on materials. We'll just put this under social sciences. Okay. This material type, oh, we could just leave it there. And I can go ahead and say arts and humanities. I don't know, whatever. I'm just picking a couple reporting codes here, and we need that renewal date. You don't have to put the subscription from and to dates in. And because you don't have to, I don't do it. However, when it comes to invoicing, that can trip you up a little bit. So adding them in, even though it's not required, is really not a bad idea. So let's say we'll set this from like August 1st to August or July 31st, 2022. I'm going to just change this date. So filling it in is helpful. Not required, but helpful. Okay. So that was an electronic collection. The last kind of order I want to talk about are standing orders. So if you get standing orders, if you get, you have an agreement, and whether it's an analyzed series, whether it's on a certain topic or a certain author, whatever it is, you can have a purchase order line that's very brief, that is just used for the purchase order, and it could be suppressed, like this one is suppressed, okay? Because really it's only for the PO line, because when the materials come in, they're going to get their own bib, their own holding, their own item. They're not gonna be actually using this bib when it comes in. You can link it back there if you like. Standing orders are only for print resources. Same workflow that we saw before. Okay. So here's an example, just locating or creating a bib, click on order, and this purchase order line type, physical standing order monograph, and you'll need the renewal date. So I can come in here and I could do something very quick. I could even do open metadata editor, and I could say, here's a new template. What did I have? Very short introductions. That's my title of the series. Very short introductions. I'm going to hit save. I did a Control S, that shortened that down. I can suppress this from discovery right here because no one needs to see it. If you want this to be a little bit more robust, you can definitely have it be. Physical standing order monograph. No inventory will get created and Alma won't care. Let's say, I'm just picking a vendor here. I'm going to say ProQuest. Let's say we pay like 50, we estimate we pay about $50 per series, per item that comes in. This will be a book when it comes in. I do need that renewal date. Okay, so I've made my different PO lines. We just have a few more slides and we're done here. When we get done with PO lines, they have different statuses. If a PO line status is in review, you've either put it there by hitting save instead of save and continue, or almost missing something important, like you hit save and continue, but it didn't have a vendor, it didn't have a price, something like that, a hard stop, those things that Alma has to have. I mentioned earlier about manual packaging. If you said that you were going to manually package your PO lines and you complete them and you go to save and continue, they're going to sit in that status until you do the packaging for them. With auto packaging, if you let Alma package them up, Alma runs a job in the evening to package them up into purchase orders and move them through the process. So essentially, if it's sitting at auto packaging, you don't have to do anything. Ready, if you set up an integration with a vendor, and Alma's going to talk to that external system and Alma's going to push the order information out, it'll sit there at Reading, and then that job will run at night again to push the data out, and then it'll switch to sent. PO lines can also be closed when the whole process is done. If they're continuous orders, they could be waiting for manual renewal or waiting for renewal. When I was making those lines, you can choose if they're manually renewed or automatically renewed with a PO fiscal year rollover. PO lines can also have a status of waiting for invoice. We'll see that as we move through this series. These are ones you don't see as often. Under evaluation has to do with our trial functionality, or for renewal. If you need to defer PO lines or cancel PO lines, or delete them. So our resources, I always like to point out how to get to our documentation in the Knowledge Center. Remember, our documentation is always, it's indexed in Google, so just type Alma and whatever you're looking for. We also have a great LibGuide as well. A lot of information is there. I know Acquisitions has information in a lot of places, so we built that LibGuide to help navigate through that. So I hope you find that helpful. This is that link to the series that I put in the chat. It's also in the PowerPoint. Next week, we're going to be activating electronic resources and receiving physical resources. So everything we ordered today, we're going to be turning on. We're going to be getting in the door. We're going to be activating if they're electronic, okay? The series that my team does, we present these into sessions live to customers, but anyone can come. If you want a more personalized individual approach, we do have a team that offers services for that. They are at a fee. They're not for free. The sessions that we do in mass are the ones that are complimentary, part of your maintenance. I want to thank you so much for your time today. We are over time, so I'm not going to get to the chats, but what I will do is I'm going to read through these. I'm going to read through these and respond to them. Okay, I'll respond to them in a Q&A session, and it'll be available, not right away, but it'll be available under week 2 on the dashboard. When you leave here, there will be a survey, and any feedback you have for me, I really appreciate. I read through them all, and I'm constantly, trying to change how I say things and make sure everyone can follow along. I hope everyone has a great rest of your day, and thanks so much for your time. Bye-bye. Grab this chat. Miss any questions in here? Okay.